Okay, this is your wellness scan. So it's really interesting some of the things that we noticed with the travel. So I don't think it's the best scan because I think being on the airplane really impacted your energy field, but I'm gonna do the best to give you the best reading I can with the data that we have. Okay, so this is the lifestyle chart. The ones that we want to keep an eye on is regimen of the day and nutrition. Now, the thing about this is you were out of town, you weren't in your normal routine. So it's kind of one of those things that you just have to take with a grain of salt, but everything else looks pretty good. Traveling is hard on our bodies. We're not sleeping in our normal beds. We're not eating what we normally eat at home. So it does impact your scan, when you're traveling. Okay. So looking at your energy field, now this is what I was kind of thinking with being on the airplane. This isn't how charts normally look. I'll just go to someone else so you can see. This is kind of how it normally looks. So what I'm realizing, because I have seen this recently, there was someone that traveled in town that traveled from California as well, and their charts looked very similar to this. And so I think just being on an airplane just zaps your energy, is my guess, because this is not what the energy field normally looks like. But just working with what we have here, where you see these spikes, like the excess energy that's kind of poking out here, that is excess energy in that specific area. So lower back, kind of, this area where it could be like reproductive area, definitely some stuff around the heart and around potentially the third eye as well. And then there's some dips. So this is stuff that could be pulling at your energy. So getting things a little more smooth and even, but that will happen as you continue to do this work. It's going to dissolve the dense energy in your energy field in your physical body, and it will start to balance out. But right now, there's definitely a lot of imbalances. Okay, so these are your chakras. Now, normally, again, the chakras are typically this size. So these are pretty tiny. And when they're this tiny, it means that the chakra isn't receiving enough energy. But again, the other time I've seen this, the person was traveling as well. So I think being on an airplane within a few days, it like zaps your energy and you have to like get your energy back, is my thought. All of the EMF you're taking in, it could just be like radiating in your energy field still. And so the reading is kind of picking that up. But we're going to look at each chakra and see how they're rotating, even though they're pretty tiny. So overall, when we look at this, this is actually pretty good, but this was after the training, so it did help, bring things into balance. I know that there are images that show the chakras in a straight line, but we're energetic beings and emotional beings having a human experience. So as we go throughout our day, different things impact our energy, our emotions. So our chakras are always moving. They're energy centers that are constantly moving. They should be rotating clockwise within this green area here, right? So we don't want them to be straight up and down on this line. We want them to be rotating as balanced as possible within this green area. So this chart is actually pretty good. But then when we look at the other charts, and the reason why I do it 3 times, I run the scan 3 times, is because we're taking a snapshot of where your chakras are, so then we can see how they're actually rotating. So what I'm going to do is go from chart to chart to chart, so that shows me how they're rotating, and then we can see which chakra is rotating in a healthy manner and which ones we can work on a little bit. So I always start at the foundation, which is the root chakra. So that's this one here. So root chakra controls our safety, stability, security, it's home, it's finances, it is our sense of belonging in the world. So right now, your root chakra is pulling it's pulling more to the feminine. So if you see the woman, she's sitting kind of reversed. So everything on this side of the screen is feminine energy. So that is left side of the body, feminine energy. This is right side of the body, masculine energy. So whether we're male or female, we have both masculine and feminine energy. So feminine energy is flow, allowing, nurturing, creativity. Then masculine energy is taking action, making decisions, going after a goal. So we need, like, life is an ebb and flow. We need both, right? So when, let me see, does it go over? So it barely goes over into the masculine. So when things are stuck in the feminine, especially like being out of balance because it's outside of that green, when it's stuck in the feminine, I see that as a call to action. Because if masculine energy is taking action, going after a goal, making a decision, then I see the chakra being stuck in the feminine as a call to action. So where can you take action to create more safety, stability, or security in your life? Where can you take action to feel more comfortable, secure in your life? So that's the question I would invite you to reflect on when it comes to your root chakra. So let's look at sacral chakra. So sacral chakra is actually out of balance on the masculine side, which is the complete opposite from the root chakra, which is interesting. So sacral chakra is out of balance on the masculine side. So sacral chakra controls creativity, passion, pleasure, sensuality, sexuality. So with this one, a lot of times our enjoyment can be external facing. And I see this in a lot of women, like especially moms. They do things that their partners will enjoy, their children would enjoy, but they're not doing things to fill their own cup that has nothing to do with others. Because when I ask women, well, what lights you up? They say, oh, seeing my kids happy, seeing my partner happy, seeing my family happy. But it's like, but what about you that has nothing to do with anyone else? And that's a hard one. When's the last time you've done something for you that you really enjoy, that lights you up, that excites you? And I know you just took a trip to, do this training, but it is kind of business and not just personal fun. And when we think about creativity, like let's just say an artist, for example, an artist can create something that really sets their soul on fire, or they can create things that they think other people will like. So it's like really getting to what sets you on fire, what really lights you up, what really gets you going, that has nothing to do with anyone else. And this also controls our zest for life. So it's important that we are paying attention to our zest for life, because I've seen when people's zest for life starts to go, their health declines after that. So just paying really close attention to your cup, making sure that you're doing things to fill your cup that has nothing to do with anyone else. Okay. Next one is solar plexus. So solar plexus is our confidence, our self-worth, our personal power. And right now it's pulling more to the masculine. It's not out of balance, which is good, but it is pulling more to the masculine and it doesn't come over into the feminine much. So this would say that your self-worth is attached to something external. So finding that internal self-worth, knowing that you are worthy, regardless of the external attachments. Sometimes we can attach ourselves to our business. We can attach ourselves to it. When I say attach ourselves, attach our self-worth to our business. We can attach our self-worth to our relationships, to being a mom. And if any of those things were to go away, knowing that we are still worthy beings. So I had to do this exercise. I said, if I close my business, who would I be? What would my life be worth if I didn't have a business? And at first, that was really hard for me to sit with because my life revolved around my business. And so it was hard for me to even think about that, but it was a really good exercise for me to do so I can start to establish that internal self-worth no matter what, because, businesses close all the time. Or what if I wanted to choose to, get married and start a family and not have a business anymore? Then my identity can't be wrapped up in just being a business owner. So often when moms, for example, their whole lives revolve around their children and they don't do anything for themselves that don't involve their children or partner, when their child is old enough to go off to college and they're empty nesters, then they're like, well, I don't know who I am. Who am I? Because the last 18 to 20 years, my whole entire life and identity was wrapped up in being a mom. But now that my child is off to college, like, I don't know what to do with myself. And then when you ask them, and I have this like women come in my studio all the time and we have this conversation. When I ask them, like, well, what do you enjoy doing? They're like, I don't even know. So that's a common process. But if you focus on figuring out who you are, really grounding in who you are now, and having things that you enjoy just for you, that's not for your partner, not for your family, like you enjoy it just for you, then when your child goes to college, you're not left trying to find yourself because you've had yourself the whole time. You know who you are, you're grounded in who you are. And that is a healthy sense of self-worth where I almost feel like women are taught to sacrifice themselves for their families, sacrifice themselves, for motherhood and to be a good wife. But that's why we're learning that more women than men have autoimmune diseases because they've lost themselves, they've let their health decline, they've let their mental, emotional, and physical health decline because they're sacrificing themselves for their family when really it's more beneficial to your family for you to have a full cup. You can show up better for your partner, for your children when your cup is full and not depleted. So what fills your cup that has nothing to do with anyone else externally, it's for you. Okay, so that is solar plexus. So let's look at heart chakra. So heart chakra actually has a pretty good balance between masculine and feminine and kind of censored. So I honestly have no notes for heart chakra. Work it. That's a good thing. But I think also the training and just being grateful and, excited, it definitely opens up that heart chakra, having the bowl on your heart. So that's a great thing. Okay, so the next one is throat chakra. So this is communication, speaking your authentic truth. It looks like you may keep some stuff to yourself, because you see how the throat chakra pulls more to the feminine, but that's the internal, that's the introversion. So what I would say is take an action. Anytime it pulls more to the feminine, I see that as a call to action. Take an action on speaking your truth, sharing your story more, and knowing that there is power in your voice. So really speaking up for yourself, sharing, your gifts, sharing your story, and feeling confident in that. I call it social confidence. All right, so the next one we have is third eye. So third eye is like right synced up with your throat chakra. So third eye is our perspective, our intuition, our inner trust. And it almost looks like it's saying the more you trust yourself, the more you'll feel confident to speak up. The more you trust yourself, the more you'll feel confident to share your story, share your knowledge, share your wisdom. So just keep developing that inner trust to be able to share your voice. And last but definitely not least, crown chakra. So crown chakra is actually stuck in the masculine. So crown chakra controls our connection to the divine. So the higher being you believe in, it's also purpose, divine guidance, things like that. So with it being stuck in the masculine, that's very external facing. So sometimes we can look for answers externally, like we're praying to something outside of ourselves versus accessing the divine within, trusting ourselves, trusting what we know to be true because the divine is within each of us. So going within and allowing, because feminine energy is also allowing things to flow together. When it's stuck in the masculine, it's usually like we're doing, and we feel like we have to control everything. And I totally get that because I'm definitely one of those people that are trying to do all the things and make things happen versus finding flow to allow them to happen, trusting the process, trusting the journey, and really trusting that divine wisdom within. Because there's a difference in someone who is going outside of themselves to find the answers versus someone really going within to trust their divine guidance and wisdom and allowing things to unfold and flow into place. Does that make sense? So let me know how all of this lands. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, like what rang true for you? Like what felt like truth in your body? All right, let's see here. So definitely some increased stress, but obviously, after a long training weekend, energy is a little bit lower. Again, traveling definitely impacts your energy. So this chart here, everything should be operating within the green, but it looks like everything's kind of operating more in the orange, which means lower energy. But I think it's because of everything being zapped on the airplane. So the main thing I want to focus on is like the really spiky area. So mammary glands, rectum, urogenital. So these are areas and thyroid. So these are areas that you want to focus on: thyroid, mammary gland, rectum, and urogenital, sacrum. So what I know, when the mammary glands are highlighted, usually there's an indication of a mother wound. I don't know what your relationship is like with your mom, but there can also be like mom guilt as well. So exploring that. And then thyroid, it's when we're not speaking our truth, it's very common for this one to be spiked because of heaviness that's weighing on the heart. I didn't notice this one before. Blind gut is another one that's spiky. So just paying attention to like the spiky areas, because when the majority of this is in the green, then these areas that are spiked are going to be like out here. So I would be really interested to see what your chart looks like after you're like home and like settled back into your normal routine. I would definitely recommend seeing if there's anyone in your area that has a bio well, so you can do a scan out there when you're not traveling to actually see a difference in your energy centers. But regardless of how much energy is flowing in the center, it still doesn't impact how it's rotating. So everything that I shared with the chakras is still going to be on point. We just need to get energy back in your body after traveling, which by now you should be back in your normal routine. But see, like this, everything should be within this green. So with it being in the orange and the red, it's basically saying that like you're not receiving enough energy to your organs. But I don't think that that's actually true. I think it's a result of being on an airplane and it just like zapping your energy centers. So anything highlighted means that there's more than a 20% imbalance between the left and the right side of the body. Um, and so it's just areas that just we have to try to create a little bit more balance. So liver, sacrum, coccyx, so probably like some lower back stuff. Immune system, interesting. Okay, so all of these should be green, but again, when your energy centers are this tiny, that means you're not getting enough energy, but I think everything was just zapped being on the plane. So again, because when I first saw this with the other guy who came in from California, I was like you gotta focus on your health and he's a pretty, I feel like, health conscious person. So there's something weird about the EMF that we take in when we're on an airplane that just like zaps your energy. It's so fascinating, but it's really hard to give an accurate reading on this when, like, because all of this should be green. So there's not really much I can say here because everything is impacted by being on the airplane. Okay, this is the last chart here. So this is your biorhythm. This has nothing to do with your energy the day that we did the reading. This is how the moon cycle impacts your cycles. So it shows the physical cycle, emotional cycle, and intellectual cycle. The 0 here, this is your baseline. This is your normal energy with nothing impacting it. So when things are below the baseline, they call that a trough. When things are above, that means you're feeling really good in that area. And then the numbers down here are the days of the month. So today is the 9th. So this is where we are right now. So right now, your intellectual cycle is actually pretty low. So when your intellectual cycle is low, that is a time where you're not processing or retaining information as easily or effortlessly. So I always give the example, it's kind of like going to the grocery store and you get there and you're like, dang, what did I come here for? Because you may not remember or retain information as easily. So just make it easy on yourself and write a list and don't try to remember when you know that your intellectual cycle is down. But when your intellectual cycle is up, this is a time where it'll be really good to learn something new, listen to an audiobook, a podcast, because you'll retain that information easier. So it looks like around the 16th to the 17th, your intellectual cycle starts to go up. So we are cyclical beings. Everything kind of ebbs and flows throughout the month. So also, emotional cycle is down. This is a time where you may not have as much patience, you may not be as compassionate. So it's just a reminder to have compassion, have patience, give yourself grace, give other people grace. And then when your physical cycle is down, it's a time to really listen to your body. If you push yourself, you're more prone to injury or illness. So listening to your body, if you're working out and your body says, I don't want to do another rep, don't do another rep. Now, when your physical cycle is up, this is a really good time to move your body, do that extra rep, go a little harder in the gym. And when your emotional cycle is up, you'll feel more loving, compassionate, patient, and probably happy. So, yeah, this is your September. It looks like the middle of the month is going to be really phenomenal for you. Physical cycle takes a little dip towards the end of the month, but again, just listen to your body, nurture yourself, take your multivitamins to make sure you're on top of your immune system's working good, and everything else is up pretty high for the rest of the month, so it should be a good month for you. All right, that is the scan, and I will continue to do research on the plane. Like if I know someone's traveling, seeing if I can get them in the studio within, 1 to 3 days of being on an airplane so I can see if this is a consistent thing. And I'll also ask around to some other BioWell practitioners to see if they've noticed the same thing. So let me know how this all lands. Let me know if you have any questions.